Hi, I'm Danny Ayub.
And I'm Joel Watts, and we are the co-designers of X, Seekers of Fortune.
In this video, we are going to show you a playthrough and we'll do some explanation about the design and some of the underlying mechanics. And we hope you enjoy what you see. So um, I'll go ahead and start getting the game set up. We're each going to start with 3 adventures in our active adventure zone, which is this bronze spot here. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead and just plug mine in here to the adventure zone. You'll notice with these adventures, they have 2 components. One is their cost, which are these tokens that you're seeing here, these multicolored tokens. And then there is a reward bar, which is that metallic bar on the bottom that will indicate what you get for completing an adventure. And we will talk through that more in just a moment. Then we will draw 6 leads each. These are what you are trying to match to your tokens on your adventures. If you are able to collect the matching leads to the adventure, you have completed that adventure, and the first person to complete 5 adventures wins. So the last thing we're going to do here is we're going to draw an Action X card. These are the spice of the game. This is what gives the game its strategic elements and makes the gameplay similar to how trading or collectible card games are most commonly experienced.
Yeah, it's definitely trying to bring the elements of collectible card games to the, all-in-one box simplicity of board games that the board game community is used to. And that's why we separated out the game into 3 different decks in order to help mitigate and solve for some of the problems of deck construction and drawing from a single deck, causing things like mana screw, as you would know from Magic the Gathering.
Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with turn one. The last element that we'll talk about here as it becomes relevant is this card here, which is called the Heroic Feats card. These are special player actions that are available to players mostly at any time. There are a few timing restrictions, which we'll talk about as we get deeper into the game. But let's go and get started. So I'm going to start every turn by revealing an adventure. This is public information, so I'm just going to lay this out on the table. And what I'm trying to determine is which of these 3 I would potentially want to substitute in for the new adventure. You can only have 3 active adventures at any given time. I am going to determine that I do not like this adventure better than the 3 that I have. So I'm going to move on to my lead draw step. So for my lead draw step, I'm going to look at the top 2 here. And I am going to choose any lead in my hand and discard it. In this case, I'm going to discard a rune. And then I am going to proceed to complete my first adventure. I am in my action step, so completing adventures is one of the actions that you can take during your action step, along with performing heroic feats, activating the abilities on Action X cards, and playing Action X cards. So I'm going to go ahead and complete an adventure. I've gathered the 5 leads I need to, and I'm going to top it off with this adventure. And I'm going to move it to my archive from my active zone. This is my first victory point, and I'm going to collect my rewards. For a 5 cost, I'm going to gather 3 leads and 1 Action X card. So I'll draw 3 leads and 1 Action X card. And I am going to play an Action X card. So I have Silence the Ego here. This card says, look at the top 3 cards of the Action X deck, put 1 in your hand, and discard the rest. And I'm going to wait to see whether or not my rival, Joel, will allow this to resolve.
It's really tempting to try to thwart this feat right now, but I think that would negatively impact my personal game plan and growth, so I'm going to go ahead and let it resolve.
Okay, so Joel lets it resolve. I'm going to move this over to my archive, which does have an impact on my potential victory condition as well, because there is a special player action, a heroic feat called Breakthrough, which says that you can discard 3 matching leads if you're in the final quest, which means you've completed 4 adventures already. And if you can discard 3 matching leads and you have 7 Action X cards in play between your action and your archive, you win the game. So
Mhm.
that's there. I'm going to look at
Yeah,
the top 3 adventures, and I am going to make a choice. Top 3 Action X cards, and I'm going to make a choice. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and discard Speak the Wild Tongues and Birthright. And I'm going to play Digger's Dugout. Now, Digger's Dugout is a site, and there are 3 different types of Action X cards. There are sites, relics, and feats. Sites and relics come into play and stay into play until they are removed. And so I'm playing Digger's Dugout. It has 2 abilities. One is Aura. Whenever a rival scraps a map, you may add it to your active adventure zone. And it has an exploit, which would allow me to discard a lead and choose an active relic. I gain control of it, and then I would archive this. I get to choose the mode on that relic as well. And with that, I will pass to you, Joel.
Okay, well, let me walk through this turn. I'm going to do things a little differently than Danny to show off some of the other aspects of our design. So first of all, here we go. Sorry, Mike. I am going to, instead of drawing the top lead or revealing the top adventure, I should say, from the adventure deck, I am going to actually take the adventure that Danny discarded last turn, and I am going to replace it with one of my adventures here. So last turn, he revealed from the top. I actually pulled from the discard pile here. Let me that. Okay, and then I am also going to pull from the discard pile for the leads. Last turn, Danny drew 2 leads and then discarded any 1 lead from his hand, but this turn, I'm just going to take that ruin and put it in my hand, and I don't have to discard anything else. So it's on me to play a little bit of catch up with Danny. He also has 1 adventure completed, so I'm going to go ahead and complete an adventure myself, which will be this double ruin, which is the yellow card, and double vision, which is the blue card. So I complete that adventure. Let's group these all together. We like to put the adventures on top of the leads used to complete them, because it's still, like, there are cards that will still interact with the adventures and the leads underneath them. So that is officially how you're supposed to keep track of your victory points. So I get to draw 1 lead from that adventure and 1 Action X card. Oh, this is a good one to show off, because now we can show off a relic. The relic here is Excavator's Pick, and Danny, I'm sure you're going to zoom in on that one. So with a relic, you get to choose to either play it nobly or ruthlessly when it comes to play. So it has that split down the middle to show you the 2 different abilities. Relics stay on the board until they are removed by an ability. So for the rest of the game, this could affect the gameplay for the rest of the game. So I have the ability to either, when you would draw an Action X card, instead look at the top 2, draw 1, bury the other. So it lets me filter my Action X draws. Or if I was being ruthless, which usually the noble helps you, and the ruthless hurts your rival. So I could be ruthless and say, whenever Danny reveals and I would draw an Action X card, instead I look at the top 2 and I give him one of them, so I could filter his Action X draws. Now, I play nobly most of the time myself, so I'm just going to stick with it in noble. But if we were to play it ruthlessly, we like to indicate that by flipping the card to face the rival, so they know it's on ruthless. All right. So that was my adventure complete, and that was my Action X draw. You know, I'm really close to completing one of these other adventures. I'm 1 lead away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to negotiate. That is one of the heroic feats that you'll see over here, and it is only available to you when you are tied or behind in completed adventures. And right now, Danny and I are tied. So why don't we go ahead and show that off? So for negotiations, you have to scrap a map. So I'm going to take the map I'm less likely to complete and scrap it. And then I look.
I am just going to jump in here because I do have a trigger on Digger's Dugout, so I will take that map.
There we go. Yes. This is like where the game can this is how the game can look a lot like Magic the Gathering or other TCGs. There are abilities that stack upon abilities that trigger off of other abilities, and we think it makes the game real fun, especially when you get more advanced and comfortable playing it. All right, so I'm looking at my top 3 leads, and unfortunately I didn't hit what I needed. So now I have to look over at Danny's side, because I get to look at 3 leads, but I have to give one of them to Danny. So I'm going to decide which one I think he needs least out of what I drew. I know which one he needs most. I'm going to give him this myth here. So that's going to be his. And like I said, I didn't draw what I needed. So I am just going to pass turn back to Danny.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna. Oh, sorry about that. I am struggling to
Mm-hmm.
turn this. I don't know why, but
That's all right. Well, while you're struggling with that, one thing I would love to point out about the design of this game is early on, Danny and I identified that we were creating a game that had a sort of a race element. You're trying to be the first to complete 5 adventures. You're not trying to like destroy your rival shields. You're not trying to take their life down to 0. We're really happy, and we think it's really good for this for the TCG marketplace to have a game that's more interested in racing towards a finish line before your rival than it is to beat up or unalive your opponent. I
yep,
think that makes for a much better. I personally think it makes for a much calmer experience in that sense.
perfect. All right, so I'm gonna jump in here, start my turn as we always do with the adventure step. I'm looking at the discard pile or choosing from the top of the deck. I'm going to go for the top of the deck, and I am going to reveal a adventure that I don't think I want. So I'm going to discard it, and I'm going to look at the top
Danny,
two.
did you happen
Oh,
to accidentally draw 27 adventures or something?
I did accidentally draw 27 adventures, and I only needed 26. So let me put them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to.
I'm sure it's very relatable for everybody here who uses TTS to see a TTS error like that.
Yeah. All right. So I have discarded the adventure that I drew for turn. I am going for my lead draw. And now I am going to discard the lead that I do not want, which is going to be this glyph. And I am going to proceed to complete another adventure. But before I do, I am going to discard a lead and archive my Digger's Dugout to steal Joel's Excavator's pick.
Oh no! How could I have let you know that?
I am going to keep it on Noble, and then I am going to collect 3 Vision leads and 2 Rune leads to complete another adventure. And with that, I have. Oh, with that, I have 2 adventures completed, so 2 victory points. I'm going to collect my rewards. I get 3 leads, and I am actually going to be receiving the ability, because of the Excavator's pick, to look at the top 2 Action X cards and take my pick of 2 Action X cards instead of just accepting what's at the top of the deck. And I am going to take that one. So I'll discard the Thirsting Stone. And I am going to attempt to complete another adventure here. So I'm going to play Follow the River and see if that resolves.
Him getting ahead of me by 2 is a really rough spot for me to be in. So I am going to go ahead and risk it and pay the thwart cost. So thwart is a heroic feat that allows me to basically stop his feat from going forward. You can basically cancel out any feat by paying 2 matching leads.
Yep. And so one feature of this feat, Follow the River, many of the cards that we put into the game, almost all of them, have are modal, meaning there are at least 2 options on them. And the reason why we did this is we wanted to make sure that cards were never dead in players' hands. So we worked really hard to make cards that had functionality in different types of game states. So there was almost always a use case. So with Follow the River, there are 2 modes. There's an aggressive mode that lets you complete adventures faster. In this case, until end of turn, the next adventure you complete costs 2 vision fewer, or which is how I use it. Or it can also be used as a thwart, similar to how Joel just performed the heroic feat thwart by discarding 2 matching leads. Follow the River can thwart all by itself without discarding any leads. But this was a poorly conceived of Follow the River on my part. I cannot protect it. So it will go to the archive, and I am going to have to pass the turn back to Joel.
Yeah. And we sometimes are in this situation when you thwart, the leads you use to thwart go to the bottom of the lead discard pile. That's because if I had put them on top, I would have had the option to draw those leads at the beginning of my turn. So we wanted to make sure that people couldn't strategically thwart and keep reloading their hands with the leads they used to pay for it. So that it really is a sunk cost because it sinks to the bottom of the discard pile. All right, so I'm going, Danny?
Yes, you're going to be going here.
Okay, cool, cool. All right, can't wait to see what I get. I hope. Well, based on seeing this is why we did that. Based on what I just thwarted, I would have really loved to have one of those glyphs sitting
Yep.
there at the top of the discard pile, but I don't. So I don't have the ability to complete that adventure. All right, let's see if I can luckily draw into what I need to complete one of these adventures. Lady Luck is on my side. All right, I am going to discard, I think, this ruin right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I am going to go ahead and play or complete an adventure. So I'm putting for the leads to complete it, to attempt to complete the adventure. And I mean, in 99% of the time, maybe a little less than that, you just say you complete an adventure and you complete it, but there are cards that can interact with the completion of an adventure. So you just to be aware, there is a little step there where Danny could have reacted if he had the right cards in hand. So that was a 4 cost. So yet again, I get one lead. Here we go. Work with me, TTS. And 1 action X card. Let me try that again. Okay, my 1 button is not working on my keyboard, it seems. So I'll just draw it the old-fashioned way.
Just so everyone knows, we did not design Joel's keyboard. That is
Yeah,
someone else's issue.
Blame the Keychron company.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm also running on a very old computer that tends to struggle when I have TTS open with anything else. I'll put forth Cavern of the Mirrorpool. This is another site, and it reads that its aura is that you may leverage it, which means turning it to the side. This is just to indicate for players that they've used the ability. So when you turn the card to the side, it says you've used this once per turn ability, and at the beginning of my next turn, I can then put it back face up, or as porting vertically, I should say. But when I do leverage it, I discard up to 2 leads. Then I draw a lead for each lead discarded. So it lets me, yet again, this is another card that lets you filter out leads and help you get towards your win condition. But if I exploit it, and on this one, I'm going to have to wait a turn to exploit it. But I can discard my entire hand and scrap a map. Then I draw leads equal to the lead cost of scrapped map. And I archive this card. So I have to basically get rid of this card and move it to the archive, but then I can completely reload my hand with like up to 5 leads. Pretty powerful.
Okay.
All right. I am in an interesting spot. I will go ahead and let's see. Well, I prefer going the other direction when I do that. I will go ahead and discard 1 lead because I can do up to 2. So that means I can do 1 and draw 1. Oh, there we go. My 1 key is working again. And, but I think that's going to be it for my turn. Just double checking. Yeah, I think that's going to be everything I'm going to do this turn.
Okay. Then I will return on my side here. I'll start by grabbing an adventure from the top and putting it here in my active adventure zone because I have an open slot. I don't have to worry about losing an adventure. So I'll go to the top of the lead deck. And I'm going to go ahead and discard a rune. And let's see here.
Yeah, and while Danny's doing some thinking, we just want to point out, the 4 lead icons that we've come up with. We've spent a long time developing, deciding what to go forward with. And so we really think we have a great thematic system. This is based on adventuring, like that archaeology style adventure of Indiana Jones and Lara Croft. And the 4 leads sort of represent what you would follow, like literally leading you on your adventure. Ruins, the places the left behind, the glyphs, which are like the written records, visions, which are kind of like those psychic visions that you receive in your sleep or maybe on some sort of spirit quest, and then finally myth, which is the oral tradition of the lost civilization that you're like looking out for. And so, there's just like something for each player to identify with across those.
Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and opt to negotiate,
Oh, yes.
leveraging again this special player action heroic feat card. So I'm going to look at the top 3, and I'm going to send Joel something that is not helpful to him, hopefully. So he'll get the rune. And I also am going to take a stab at being aggressive here. I'm going to discard a myth and a scrap one of my maps to perform another heroic feat, which is called Sabotage. This says discard a lead and scrap an active resource. Active resource is anything inside of this yellow box here in the active zone. So sites, relics, and active adventures. And if you do that, you can bury an active adventure or archive a site of relic that is controlled by a rival. So I have just paid the sabotage cost, and I am attempting to sabotage his Cavern of the Mirror Pool. Will he protect it?
It's very tempting to protect, but you have a very loaded hand. So, and this kind of comes into like the deeper gameplay. I see that Danny has over 5 leads in hand. Is that correct? Like you have 6, I think?
I have 6 leads in hand. That's correct.
So what that tells me is Danny at least has 1 thwart loaded up. So if I can't thwart twice, he can easily go for it. And not to reveal too much about my position, but I don't think I have the skin in the game to pay that tax. So I'm just going to go ahead and lose the Cavern. It's a shame. It's a great card, but I think I could still be in it without it.
Okay. I've got one last play on my turn. This is a classic beginner play, but I'll go ahead and do it. I'll play Labyrinth the Uruk-hai and pass.
All right, with the Labyrinth in play, I may only take 1 action during my turn. Same for Danny, but he has a little bit more control of it because he can choose to archive it or get rid of the Labyrinth versus I'm just sort of stuck under its oppressive, its oppressive tyranny, if you will.
Yep.
Also, Danny, I will say strategically, Danny made a good move in getting rid of an adventure or sacking an adventure to the discard pile because I really wanted the adventure that was on top of the discard pile. This one is now much less appealing to me from what I can see on the board, especially with the Labyrinth of Uruk-hai in play.
And with Labyrinth, I mean, this is a great opportunity to talk about, just for a second, the art. All the art in the game is commissioned by different artists from around the world. This one was done by Bruce Bernice, who is a well-known Magic the Gathering artist. His rendition of Labyrinth of Uruk-hai. But we also have wonderful contributions from Slobodan Jovanovic. And here's another Bruce Bernice piece and a Daniela Ivanova. Beautiful art. Silence the Ego. All right.
Yeah. We figured out early in the process that there's a lot of AI art going around in the market. Are the people putting games out with AI art receiving a lot of negative feedback, and we're just very happy that we went out and found real humans to make real art for this really fun game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're hoping that people see the value in supporting human artists, and as the market gets continuously crowded with AI generated images, that games like X Seekers of Fortune that have employed real artists to tell a story through the art on their cards, because each of these cards you can see tell a story. Here we see Ana Lucia in the cavern following the river looking for something, and she's holding the Mimic map, which is actually featured on another card. But here we see her later, after she's found the cavern she's looking for. She actually has obtained the Jewel of the Mirror Pool, and the jewel is another relic in the game. And so you can see the same character here at different points in her journey. And guess what? Here's where she is. This is the Cavern of the Mirror Pool. So just right now in play, we have 3 different cards that are telling different parts of Ana Lucia's journey. And this is just one of the reasons why working with artists and really having the control to tell a story through gameplay is so fantastic.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. It was a nearly 6 month plus process to get all these arts commissioned, and as we went, we found new layers, and we actually developed the story and the lore as we went through and made these arts. So not only is this a game, but it's a full-fledged story that will be coming out some one way or the other, um, whether it be written, spoken. We'll discover that, but yeah, you can get the first glimpses of the story and try to piece it together yourself just by looking at the artwork on the cards. So while Danny was explaining that, I went ahead and drew my adventure for turn from the discard pile and my lead for turn from the discard pile, being quite the scavenger this game. Is this? I presume that I meant to have this in my hand. I think something might. I think I might be having some sort of tabletop simulator error because now I think I have an infinite amount of. Oh, I know what I did. I drew the entire discard pile.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it was only supposed to be um, one myth. So let me get this fixed here.
This is one of the beautiful elements of playing the game in paper. You don't have to worry about
Yeah.
randomly drawing the entire discard pile. So for the reviewer who will be looking at Executors of Fortune, we will be sending a physical copy of the game that was produced
Yeah.
by our manufacturer as a prototype.
Yes, and I will say that this is such a fun game to play physically. That's my preferred way of playing games. I use TTS when I have to, but when I get to play this game, sitting across from each other, it definitely gives me Friday Night Magic vibes. It gives me draft vibes. It feels really good. All right, so I only can do one thing this turn. So I can either attack the labyrinth to try to destroy it and get to do more things, but I know Danny's sitting there with thwarts in hand, and I don't know if that's really what I want to be doing. So I'm just going to take my one action and use it to negotiate to hopefully set myself up for a good next turn.
I approve of this action, by the way. I like leads,
Mhm.
and any opportunity to increase the leads in my hand is something that I'm in favor of. I will say also that one of the things that we've had to do throughout the game is to continuously balance the mechanics. Obviously, that's part of the game process. And negotiate was one that originally was just a draw 2 leads mechanic, but we found that from a balance standpoint, there needed to be a little bit of an offset. So we introduced draw 3 to give players more selection, but the downside, you have to give one of those 3 leads to your rival, and it just makes for a much more interesting gameplay tension.
I think I had kept a card from that accidental discard pile drawing, so I just returned that to the bottom. But that was my one action for turn, as Labyrinth of Arakai says. So Danny just goes straight into his turn.
Perfect. So I'm going to
Yeah.
take this lead here. Sorry, adventure from the discard pile. And I'm going to look at the top 2 here. And I am going to, I can discard any one. So I will discard this one.
Mm-hmm.
Then I am going to activate the exploit on Labyrinth of Arakai, which allows me to bury this card to draw 2 action X cards. So burying is at the bottom of the discard pile, so I'll just tuck that down there. I now get to. This is an interesting. This is a interesting
Combo.
because I have excavators in pick, which will now give me the selection. Now, Joel, does this basically mean that I just draw both at the same time and I just keep them both, or do I get to filter for each draw
You
individually?
get to the way I read it, and I hope the people at home would read it the same way, is you get to filter for each draw. So you would draw 2, pick one of them, and discard the other. Then draw 2, pick one of them, discard the other.
All right, so I'm going to do my first draw here. Nice.
Which means I'm in a bad position because the more the action X cards are very impactful in this game. So the more that Danny sees, the more he's getting ahead of me. He's already ahead of me in terms of leads, and now his action X, he got a stacked hand. I need to be prepared to use heavy thwarts to stop him from winning the game.
All right, so I'm going to play Irradiated Crater, which is going to stop him from drawing from discard piles. Irradiated Creator says, Aura, rivals may not take from discard piles. Exploit, and you'll see that it has that lightning bolt symbol, which means ambush. That indicates that this exploit can actually be activated the turn it comes into play. Discard 2 leads, bury all active adventures, then reveal an adventure and put it into play. Archive it. I'll leave that alone. Then I am going to play Callous Repossession.
Oh, not a fan of that at all.
And so Callous Repossession says draw 2 leads, then they may discard an action, and then they discard an action X card. So choose a rival. I'll choose Joel. Draw 2 leads, and they discard an action X card. Then I may discard 2 leads. If I do, I can put an action X card from a discard pile into my hand. So I'll draw.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and put those back, sir. I get a reaction window.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead, since I'm going to have to discard it anyways, I will use my Outfox to thwart his Callous Repossession.
How do I feel about that? I am okay with that happening, I guess. So Callous Repossession will go here. We got the Outfox out of his hand. Now I'm going to go ahead and complete an adventure. That is my third adventure. I'm going to draw my lead for turn. And I'm going to draw 2 Action X cards and choose one of them. I will take Cartographer's Cache and discard it. Then I am going to play 3 leads to complete my 4th adventure. Now, I'm going to collect my reward as per normal, with this case being that I will be looking again at the top 2 leads because of my Excavators pick. Top 2 action X cards, excuse me. Because of my Excavators pick, I'm going to discard Tectonic Discovery. And then now I'm heading into the final quest, which means I have to go through the final quest entry process. So when you enter the final quest, it's a little bit different. I'm going to discard all the leads in my hand. Then I'm going to reveal adventures until there are 2 adventures in play at minimum. But you will not release, excuse me, let me say this again. I'm going to reveal adventures until there are at least 2 in play, but I will reveal no less than 1. So if I already had 2 in play, I would go up to 3. If I had 3 in play, which is not possible, well, I guess there's probably some way it's possible. Unlikely, though. All right, so I'm going to take 2 here. I'm going to put them into play, and now my rival, Joel, will get to choose which of these 2 I'm going to keep.
That one.
He's going to wisely choose for me to get rid of the 3 cost and stick onto the 4 cost. Now, one of the implications here now is, although my limit of adventures hasn't changed, or my ability to gain adventures through special player actions or Action X cards hasn't changed, I am no longer able to draw adventures on my turn once I've entered the final quest. So I'm going to draw my 3 leads. That is something that happens every time you enter the final. And with the 3 leads, I am going to... I'm going to go ahead and pass the turn.
Okay. So I am unable to draw from discard piles, even if I wanted to, because of the Irradiated Crater. So I'm just going to be taking things from the top this turn. So that was my adventure and my leads. Okay. Let's see. I need one of those, so I guess I'll get rid of... It's always tough to decide what to get rid of, because Danny can still draw from the discard pile, and now I know exactly what he's going for the time being. So any lead that is on this card, this adventure right here, is suspicious for me to discard, but I have to both play what's best for my hand and what's best to keep Danny off of winning. So I'm just going to take the assumption that he probably already has a myth from that draw. All right. So I need to play some catch up here. So I'm hoping maybe with any luck I could complete 2 adventures this turn. So let's see if I can do that. So I'm going to complete my first adventure, which is this 4 cost right here. And that draws me 1 lead. And 1 Action X card. Ooh, okay. So earlier in the game, Danny has 3 leads in hand and 2 Action X cards. So his ability to thwart is suspicious right now, but he could still have a thwart in hand. But at this point, I'd be looking to get rid of it anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and use the opportunity to play Unearth, which is a feat that says, choose the completed adventure, take 2 leads used to complete it, and put them into your hand. So that basically means those piles of leads that are under all these adventures here are now accessible to me. Danny, are you going to Unearth?
This is a great question of what to do here. I'm not going to thwart it. I'm going to live on the wild side. I'm going to let you resolve this to see what happens.
Okay, well, just so you folks at home know, I'm going for this pile right here.
Yep. So Unearth says choose one. Choose a completed adventure, take 2 leads, use to complete it, and put them in your hand, or Breakthrough. Breakthrough simply is the ability to draw an Action X card.
Yeah. It's yet again one of those times where we put a heroic feat at the bottom of a card to give it more versatility. Okay, and with those 2, well, I don't even know why I put them in my hand because I'm going to use them immediately to finish that adventure. So I at least did what I was hoping to do, which was to catch up with Danny by completing 2 adventures this turn.
Yep. Now we're both in the final. Risky
Okay.
business.
All right. So yeah, this is now we're at a real nail biter here. So if you recall, I'm going to first draw my reward, which is just 1 off the top of the Action X deck. Okay. And then I'm going to discard all the leads in my hand. Oh, come on. Okay. And then I'm going to, I know I at least have to present 2, so I'm going to line up 2 here and flip them over. And Danny gets to choose which one he thinks is going to be harder for me.
Yep. So go ahead and keep double myth, double vision.
That seems like a good choice because there's a lot of vision under all of these adventures. In fact, most adventures require vision to complete. So that means they're out of circulation, which means less likely to draw vision cards. All right. Well, let me draw my 3 my 3 leads. Okay. The question always becomes like, now this is like the tension of, do you go for it or do you sit back and give it a few turns? So let's go ahead. I'm going to play it conservatively and pass the turn over to you, Danny.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to skip my adventure draw for turn. I am going to take the rune off the top here. And then I am going to attempt to Blade Edge Bargain.
Are you targeting adventures or leads?
I am going to target leads in this case. So Blade Edge Bargain says choose one, choose a rival, swap 2 of their maps with one of your maps, or choose a rival. They reveal their leads to you. Swap 2 of their leads with one of your leads. So I'm going to use leads and ask him to reveal his hand to me.
I'm going to be spiteful and thwart your attempt.
Okay. So Joel has thwarted. So these will go to the bottom. This will not live to see another day. It'll go to my archive.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, do you have 7? You might as well explain the breakthrough victory condition.
Yep. So
maybe even use it.
The breakthrough victory condition requires that you have 4 adventures complete. So you have to already be in a position to win the game by completing an adventure. But if you have 7 Action X cards between your active zone and your archive zone, which I do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I can discard 3 matching leads without Joel thwarting it, I will win the game on the spot. So
Yeah.
here we
And
go.
this is just an additional rule, like rule to breakthrough. Like it's kind of like the secret mode of breakthrough.
Yep.
Not so secret. Go ahead.
Pure
You
Beyond.
have okay, let's see. Goes through.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to look at the top 4 here. Let me set my cards down.
I'm assuming that Danny is going to he's going to be able to draw enough to see enough cards to win one way or the other. He's either going to complete his adventure or he's going to break through victory.
Now I only get to keep 2 of these cards.
Correct.
Which, let's see, I think there's a way for me to, look at what I have here. Okay. So I am going to take these 2. Actually. All right. All right. So now I've completed Pure Beyond, and I am going to present the breakthrough win, which is the 3 matching leads, 3 glyphs.
Yep. All I can say you get the win because all I have in my hand is a rune and make off with, which does not have thwart on it, so I cannot stop you.
Yep.
Which was risky on my part for going into the final adventure, like gassing myself into the final adventure. It's arguable that I could have maybe stopped you if I stood back and just held onto the cards in my hand. That's always an option. Also, I should point out this line of play to the people watching. We have Barter, which I don't think we ever used during the game. I had this Action X card make off with, which wasn't very useful to me at this point in the game. So what I could have done on my final turn, the turn before Danny won, was barter this away, which means it would have gone to the discard pile, and I would have looked at the top 2 adventures. I would have chosen one to put into play. They weren't great, but this one would probably have been in play. And then since I have 2 adventures, I now have the ability to use one of them to negotiate. Which, let's just see. Just for fun. Yeah, I think I still would have busted, but it was a play that I could have made knowing that Danny could win next turn, I could have made that play as a Hail Mary sort of action to try to take the win from underneath him.
100%. So anyway, that is X Seekers of Fortune. We appreciate you taking the time to check out a quick janky playthrough of the game with the commentary of the creators of the game. Neither of us were playing the game optimally because we were trying to just kind of show the range of different play experiences that are available in X Seekers of Fortune. This game would certainly still be going on if we were playing a little bit more competitively.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%. But thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate your consideration.
All right.